Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 103 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris, coming at you solo again this episode, and we got a lot to talk about. ASU beats UCF. ASU football goes on the road to face Kansas State, and ASU men's basketball looks pretty good early on in the season. So, going to be kind of a shorter show just without Colt today, but still a lot to get to. Before we get started, please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Those really help the show, help us gain visibility, and just a good thing to do. So please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And also follow the College Huddle. The College Huddle is the largest network of fan content shows in the country. They have shows for pretty much every Power 5 school. So if you want to know how the fans are feeling about the team, College Huddle is a great place to go, and you'll probably be able to find the school that you're interested in, including ASU at the Stomp the Bus pod. Speaking of which, I went on the Cocaine Willie podcast on Tuesday, retweeted on the Stomp the Bus Twitter feed at Stomp the Bus pod on Twitter. Great talking with those guys about the upcoming ASU versus Kansas State game. Going to be a competitive game. Manhattan is going to be sold out crazy. It's going to be a, big environment, prime time on ESPN. It's going to be a fun game. And this is a type of game that ASU hasn't been in. This biggest game since at Utah in 2021. And hopefully that game goes better than that one did. That was it wasn't a complete disaster. You were up at halftime, but then you give it away in gross fashion in the second half. So let's hope that doesn't happen, but it'll be a great test for the Sun Devils, who overcame a unique challenge against UCF. After the game, Dillingham said that ASU got outplayed and outcoached. And as someone who watched the game from the stands, I agree with him. Maybe not quite as much about the outcoached parts, but I mean, if you get outplayed, then kind of de facto you get outcoached. So I guess I see where he's coming from. Weird game. It was one of the weirder games of ASU season. Maybe the weirdest when you consider a bunch of factors. There we go. ASU was outgained by, let's see here, outgained by 146 yards. Excuse me. Only had 260 yards as a team. Only 3.1 yards per carry. They had 9 penalties for 80 yards, 1 turnover that went for a pick 6, obviously. Time possession was about the same, but they were much better on the ground. And I mean, their quarterback played fairly well. I'll give him credit. Rizik or whatever his name is. He made some pretty good throws and made some good decisions. So it is weird where you face a team that you're playing their backup quarterback, or I'm sorry, not their backup quarterback. He entered the year as their 4th string quarterback. And it turns out that he's probably the best QB on the roster, which I just, that's interesting when that happens. So I don't know why Dylan Rizik is lighted up on my page. That's weird. Maybe I accidentally followed him for some reason. No, that is weird. Oh, I figured it out. I was following you. Well, anyway, he played well, but it wasn't enough. ASU just kept punching back. They kept punching back. And boy, we talked about how last year there was a lot of things that went against ASU's way. There's no other way around it. Just with the injuries, you had your both left tackles get injured again, or I'm sorry, both tackles get injured against Oklahoma State in week 2 last year, and then Rashada gets injured. So you were a not great team with a thin offensive line anyway, and then that happens. Just you lose a game at Washington you should have won on a late pick six. You suffer injuries to the point where the last month of last year was a bunch of blowouts. It looks like a lot of this stuff is kind of shifting because you won a game where you scored 21 offensive points and the other team scored 31 points and missed a field goal, by the way. Well, I guess they missed two, but missed a makeable field goal. I mean, I think people look at the LT Welch pick six, which was obviously an incredible play, and I'm really glad that he's contributing. But I think that block punt by Martell Hughes and the return by Montana Warren, that honestly might have been the biggest play of the game, because early in the game, UCF was just cruising up and down the field, and ASU was not doing that. They were dealing with some troubles offensively and weren't able to cash in because they did have a starting drive that went well, but they didn't get the fourth down, and then they got sacked. And then it's like I think ASU's third possession in the game came like with 7 minutes left in the second quarter, which is crazy. Yeah. So because UCF takes 7 minutes to score a touchdown to open the drive, just not a bad sign. Then ASU gets 40 yards downs, doesn't get it. ASU forces a 3-and-out on the subsequent drive, and then that's where the block punt comes in. You're 10-10. UCF gets a field goal. Still takes 4.5 minutes off the clock. ASU, again, takes 2 minutes off the clock, but it's a 3-and-out. So who cares? And then UCF has another touchdown drive. ASU gets the ball back at 4:56. So and ASU didn't score an offensive touchdown until less than a minute left in the first half. And then they get the pick six right after it. So it was a crazy end of the first half. You just completely stole their souls. It felt like anyway. But then in the second half, you have a decent drive, you punt, you hold them on the next drive, you punt, 3-and-out, you punt. Then they get a touchdown drive, they take the lead. Crap. But then, again, they respond right away. Sam Leavitt throws a touchdown pass to Tyson, makes some big plays, hits Tyson for that 29-yard jump ball play, which was freaking awesome. That might honestly be the best, highlight reel play of the season. No, that's not true. Some of the Scatavoo runs, but it's probably top 5. I mean, that was incredible. Tyson elevated just so much in this game, literally and figuratively. 9-yard touchdown to Tyson. But then immediately after, UCF get just 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Just not. Then you have to minus 24 yards. Yeah, I don't know why it says minus 24 yards, but you get sacked again. Then you get a little break. They miss a field goal, and you make just enough stops. You hold them to 2 4-yard runs and then a 0-yard run, and then they miss a field goal on a kick that didn't even have the distance. It bounced off the bottom of the post, that's just watching the game live. That's when it really felt like we were going to win. That was because I did not feel like we were going to win for a lot of this game, just with how well UCF moved the ball. But they were able to do it, and that missed kick was really the draw. And then Leavitt looks great on this this final touchdown drive. I mean, Guillory, to his credit, draws a PI, 15 yards right there. Then after a 1-yard run, Leavitt hits Guillory for a 9-yard first down, incomplete pass. 5-yard run at the UCF 46. This was such a key play. Sam Leavitt run for 7 yards on the UCF 41 for a first down. It was a pass play. He surveyed for a little bit, and then just quickly, boom, made the decision, runs for the sticks. He has great acceleration, great speed, and he just gets the first down. And I mean, he's made so many of those drive extending plays that are really the difference in winning and losing games. And he's taken one really bad hit this whole time this year. And I mean, he paid for it, and ASU ended up paying for it. But, it was still, it's good that he's able to take off. And it's, his rushing totals in this game aren't that great. I think he only rushed for like 22 yards. There were some sacks, and he just, some of his yards were short pickups. Then you get 8-yard pass to Brown, 1-yard run Brooks, 12-yard pass to Stovall, and a great play call that got him open, and then a perfectly thrown ball on the inside leverage to Jordan Tyson. Then this is they really won the game. It was the kickoff. Rizek completes a pass to Hudson for 7 yards. CJ Fight comes in with an incredibly timely sack, 8 yards lost. And then Rizek, of course, this is going back to he played well, completes a pass for 9 yards, a force of 4th and 2. They're going to go for it here. They do go for it. 4th and 2. RJ Harvey gets 1 yard instead of 2. Miles Rouser blows him up. And then for the next, ASU wasted enough time off the clock, left them with 5 seconds left, and they weren't able to get the fumble return thingy to go all the way. I know Sam Levitt's final box score here. Excuse me. 16 of 25, 161, 3 touchdowns, and 0 picks. That doesn't, it's obviously the 3 touchdowns is awesome. 16 for 25, 161 doesn't look that great. If you were watching the game, he had one pass that was just a drop by Jake Smith. That was a perfectly thrown ball. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. So that impacts his stat line. Had a few throwaways, he had a miss to Tyson early on that was a little telegraphed. But, overall, again, just another really good game. Had a throwaway. So again, those incompletions impact it. I was listening to Chris Cartman on a podcast, and he mentioned that Levitt has the fewest Jeopardy balls, or maybe it's turnover worthy plays. He's the 8th fewest in the country or something, or 8th best in that metric on PFF. That's impressive for a redshirt freshman, and I'm just so happy this has worked out with Levitt. He's been pretty much everything you could ask for from a quarterback. He's tough, he's a leader. That you can tell the guys follow him. Scadaboo follows him. And again, this game, you saw the difference without Scadaboo. Kyson Brown, 18 for 73 isn't, a horrible outing, but it's not fantastic either. And I'm glad that it looks like Scadaboo is going to be back for this Kansas State game, and he's going to be probably back for the rest of the year, and that's huge for this team. And I'm glad his absence didn't end up burning them. So impressive to see Scadaboo, to see them win without Scadaboo, because he is their best player. And on the same token, you notice the absence of Scadaboo. You also notice the absence of Keyshawn Elliott on the defense. I'm not saying Keyshawn Elliott would have totally bottled up RJ Harvey, but he could be. Keyshawn Elliott is probably the difference in one of those touchdown drives for UCF not happening, and maybe getting stopped earlier down the field. And so I'm glad that we're going into this K-State game pretty healthy. Offensive line's been pretty healthy. Scadaboo is now back. He may not be 100%, but he's back. Tight ends are good. Wide receivers are all mostly pretty healthy. I think Guillory was dealing with some stuff, but he should be good to go for this game. So, you're going to need all hands on deck. And it's great to have Keyshawn Elliott. Did Zach Swan? I know Zach Swanson got injured at some point. I don't think okay, Zach Swanson did play in this game, so that's good too. He had a really good game against Utah, and so you've got 3 corners that are solid with Robinson, Abney, and then Welch. It's good to see Dorba getting a sack again, fight, and Kangaika got a sack. Clayton Smith has kind of faded a little bit during this season. He's had a weird little stretch. I still like what you see. I still like what you get from Clayton Smith, and so I don't know, I'm expecting a big play from him. Elijah O'Neal, no tackles. It's tough to judge as a defensive end because it could be he's still like setting the edge and stuff. So, if we're going to beat Kansas State, we're probably going to need O'Neal and Smith to really have good games. And maybe that doesn't show up on the stat sheets that much too. So we'll see. But again, this UCF game, it wasn't the prettiest game. It wasn't. There's probably a lot of scenarios where ASU does not win this game, but they did. And we talked about ASU's unluckiness in the 50-50 games last year. It's kind of I opened with it getting into this discussion. They're starting to get some of the 50-50 plays that you need to have when you want to have a good season with a team that isn't like supremely talented. I think this is a pretty talented ASU team, honestly. I think like there's a good chance. I would be surprised. Like they should probably have at least 3 guys drafted. Scattaboo, I figure it's Scattaboo, one of the offensive linemen, and one of the safeties. And then maybe if they get a 4th guy, I don't know who it would be, but maybe someone else gets drafted as well. But this isn't like a complete talent bereft team. And that showed up in the fact that you just won a game without Scattaboo. So, and against Cincinnati when Levitt didn't play, it's not like the roster talent got exposed in that game. That was more of just some weird decisions and a backup quarterback being in there. So this is a winnable game. I don't think ASU wins. I picked them to lose 28-24 on the Cocaine Willie show, which is the K-State pod. And I'm going to stick to that score. This will be a tough run game with K-State. They have DJ Giddens, Dylan Edwards, and then Avery Johnson is a really, really good running quarterback. I was talking about this on the show. Both fan bases are going to have to deal with the opposing quarterback picking up some back-breaking first downs on like 3rd and long because they're just going to escape the pocket and rush for the first down. So that's going to be frustrating at times, but that's part of the game, and that's what we do as ASU. Like that's part of our winning strategy with Levitt. So Johnson has more gaudy pass numbers, but some of that is just a result of the Mississippi State game for ASU where Levitt threw for nothing. The fact that Levitt missed a game as well. And just the fact that the run game's been going so well for ASU. Johnson, more interceptions, though. And let me look at his game log because just anecdotally, he's been a good quarterback, but like there are people talking about like Heisman hype, and he has not been even close to that good. So it's 61% of his passes. So I'm looking at it. So there's a lot of games where he at least has 10 incompletions or more, other than Tulane, 15-23, 9 incompletions against Arizona, 13 against BYU, 12 against Oklahoma State. And he'll still throw for touchdowns. He's got a few 3-touchdown games. He got 8 incompletions against Colorado, 10 against West Virginia, 15 against KU in a game you win closely. And 16 incompletions against Houston on the road. Did not have a good game. 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Both of the games they've lost, he has thrown 2 interceptions. So that is key. And he has thrown an interception in all but four games this year. So, and his rushing numbers are not as gaudy as I expected. So Arizona did a horrible job containing him, gave up 6.5 yards a carry. BYU, I guess you could say that as well. He had 2 long runs in that game. He hasn't had a run over 14 yards in 4 straight games. So that is something to watch for, and I bet that's something that Brian Ward has noted. And I think it's probably fair to say that limiting his rushing ability is a good pathway to slowing them down overall. It's that loss they have to Houston. I don't know what to make of it because Kansas State was just on their bye too. But I don't think ASU having played this past weekend is really a disadvantage. I think if they lose, it'll just be because they lose. I don't think it'll be because Kansas State was on the bye. I don't think so. The running back DJ Giddens is very good. Obviously, he is a little bit more of a big play potential guy than Scattaboo, so that's something to be mindful of. Their guy Jace Brown, their top wide receiver, he's kind of a go ball guy, but their passing game is less consistent than ours, and that's an advantage for us. It just is. And another thing is, when Colton and I were previewing this game in the offseason, we thought it was a 0% chance they win, and that has obviously changed. I mean, ESPN's giving us a 25% chance to win. I would give us like a 35% chance to win. But the reason we expected it to be so lopsided is the main reason is because it was a road game against a good team, which it remains that. And we thought that there would be a huge gap in quality of these teams, and that isn't true. These are 2 7-2 teams, both 4-2 in conference, both playing for a potential to go to the Big 12 championship game. That's what's on the line in this game. Not a not a direct berth, but a chance. And the crowd's getting rowdy and all that. But I sure as heck didn't expect it to be 60 degrees when they played in Kansas. And I'm not a huge, I've never been to Kansas, so I don't have a, knowledge of how their weather works, but I would expect it to be a little bit colder than that in mid-November, but apparently not. So that is a huge, that is such a huge advantage for ASU that they don't have to play in 40 degrees and rainy or whatever, this game could have had much worse weather than it does. So that's a huge benefit for ASU. It really is. I think that might play a bigger factor in this game than we expect, just for their overall level of comfort. So their defense is kind of a lot like ours. Gave up 27 points to Kansas, 20 to Oklahoma State, gave up 28 to Colorado, 24 to Houston, then 18 to West Virginia. This is a defense. This is one of the better defenses that we will play this year, but it's not something ASU should be afraid of, So, they'll have some good plays against us, I'm sure. I mean, I bet they might force a turnover, but I don't think that. I mean, I think ASU's probably already played the best defense it's going to play all year when they played Utah. Oklahoma State, no. Yeah, it's probably Utah. I mean, Cincinnati might be the second best defense they play. So, anyway, but it's be a big. It's just I was thinking this is such just a good opportunity for ASU, and the stakes. They're not that high. They're high on paper, but losing this game, unless you get completely blown off the field and it's disgusting, which I don't expect, everything, okay. You're 7-3, you have a chance to go 9-3. I don't. It would be a bummer. Don't get me wrong. It would be a bummer. You never want to lose, but this is a loss that makes sense for ASU given where it is as a team and as a program. But it's also like they have a legitimate chance to win. I mean, I don't understand. Like the line, I don't think the line should be 8.5. It should be probably like 6.5. So, but that, I mean, the fact that the line is, 9 points, 8 points, 8.5, like that is a thing that you should, keep note of as an ASU fan, just to understand that, okay, like the neutral odds makers see this as a 2-score game. So that is something to just have in the back of your head in this game. And if things, fall apart for ASU or don't go right, then that's a reason to understand why it happened. But I think ASU's offense is going to be able to keep up with Kansas State in this game. That's what I keep going back to. I think ASU is good for at least 24 points. And I don't think that's going to be enough, but I think that I think it'll be enough to keep it close and keep it a game, have it be a game in the fourth quarter. So it's a great test, and it's just so awesome that ASU is entering this game with a real opportunity to win, a real opportunity. Like, if you're an ASU fan, you can dream of going to the college football playoff. It is not crazy that ASU makes it to the college football playoff. They would almost certainly have to win the Big 12. I don't think they would need a lot of chaos they would have to win out in the regular season for sure. And they would probably they'd probably have to win the Big 12, or if they don't win the Big 12, it would take some chaos. But I mean, if you win this game, the 10-win season is on the table, or a 10-win regular season, I should say. If you lose this game, a 10-win season is on the table, I guess, if you count the bowl game. So it's just a fantastic opportunity on ESPN. Should have a good chunk of people watching this game. People will be interested to see Scadaboo. Scadaboo has generated national buzz. I think people in the know that Sam Levitt's pretty good, and people, respect Kansas State already with that number 16 ranking. So it's going to be a fun game. So really just happy with where ASU football is. I should mention some recruiting. They picked up 3 wide receivers, 2 in the 2025 class and 1 in the 26 class. Picked up another safety from Peoria in the 26 class. So I like to see that. You already started it out with Jake Fetty from El Paso, and then you add these other 2 guys. The 26 class is kind of coming along, so that's good to see. All right, before we shift over to men's basketball, I have to shout out ASU women's volleyball up to 9th in the rankings. They keep winning. Like we said on the last show, all that's remaining in their schedule is unranked teams. And so they have a chance to finish the regular season with 2 losses. They have a chance to be potentially a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And if you're a 2 seed, like if you're not in the bracket with like Nebraska or one of the other uber powers of the sport, then you have a chance to make it to the, final 4 teams of the volleyball tournament. So just have to keep praising ASU women's volleyball. I mean, there is no men's volleyball, but JJ Van Niel just done a great job, and it's great to see just how quick and obvious their success is. All right. Speaking of success, ASU men's basketball 2-1, which after that Idaho State game last week, which I was freaking out about, and I understandably did with how they looked, they beat Santa Clara in Vegas, and that was just an enormous win for ASU men's basketball. Just enormous, because you can go to Gonzaga and play a really good game. Like, honestly, that game they played against Gonzaga is one of the better ASU men's basketball performances I've seen as a fan. I know that sounds sad, but that was a performance that is better than a lot of games that they've won. They've won so many ugly ass games, or games where they honestly shouldn't have won, but they hit like a few threes late in the game and they kind of pull it out or whatever. Like, it wasn't one of those games. And the Santa Clara game wasn't like that either. were ahead of them for most of the game, and it never felt like the Broncos were going to overtake them. So you're 2-1. Alston Mason, BJ Freeman, and Bashir Jihad have all looked really good, have all had good games. Adam Miller has fit in. The freshmen aren't being asked to do too much. Sinone has not contributed much, and it hasn't really mattered. Quaintance has shown his skill and his potential, but he also makes mistakes. Understandably, he's 17 years old. So it hasn't looked like a complete S show, and that's very good to see. And it gives me hope that ASU actually can beat Grand Canyon on Thursday. The fact that ASU is 5.5-point underdogs is kind of crazy to me for a team that beat Western Kentucky by 2 points and Cal State Fullerton by 10. Okay. I mean, ASU's win over Santa Clara is probably a better win than either of those for Grand Canyon. So there's going to be more Grand Canyon fans here. I think that's just a reality because basketball is the number one sport at their school, and there's just more of a devotion to sports at that place. Like it's particularly men's basketball, if we're being honest. So, but with that said, I mean, ASU can still win this game. ASU absolutely can still win this game. They have size now. I mean, Sean Phillips has been pretty good. They've scored at least 80 points in their last 2 games. And this, Tyon Grant Foster for Grand Canyon, he's a good player, but it's also his first game back. Sometimes when it's the first game back, guys are a bit rusty, and maybe the shot doesn't go down as well. That's a possibility. This guy, Jacoby Coles, Sun Devil fans remember him. He hit that stupid floater for TCU in the tournament 2 years ago to knock ASU out. That sucks. Funny enough, I don't think there are any Sun Devils that were on the team 2 years ago on the tournament team, the Desmond Cambridge team, other than maybe Bobby Hurley the third, other than Trey Hurley. So that's just a sign of the times. And now this Coles guy's on another purple team that ASU needs to beat. So I don't know. I kind of feel confident that ASU is going to win this game. I picked against ASU in the last game. I'll say ASU wins this game 78-74. I think ASU can do it. I think their defense is good enough to slow down a Grand Canyon team that has played Cal State Fullerton and Western Kentucky. So we'll see. It's annoying that GCU's they're definitely going to have the advantage. It just is by how much. If it's a 60-40 crowd, then that's fine. And that's, if you're a player, that's almost unnoticeable. But if it's, 80-20, which I don't think it'll be 80-20, but it could definitely be 70-30 GCU over ASU fans there. So I like that it's at night for my nocturnal habits. But yeah, this will be a good game, and I'm glad that this game's being played. And I'm honestly I'm glad this game is being played at a time where ASU men's basketball is not a complete disaster. If this game had happened last year, we saw what that Northwestern game looked like last year. We saw what the Mississippi State game looked like. We saw what the BYU game looked like. We got just destroyed. So I don't think that's in the mix for this game. All right, shorter show today. Thank you for watching. Just wanted to touch on all of those themes, all of those, just a winning weekend for ASU men's basketball and ASU football. And you got to celebrate those when they come, man. There's been plenty of early season ugly losses for the men's basketball team that can kind of dampen a football win weekend, but not dealing with that. They had a good weekend. Both had a good weekend. So it's good to see. I'm kind of realizing this now. There's been some of the Sun Devil fans and Sun Devil, I saw Speak of the Devils post about this today. Apparently it was pretty much exactly a year ago that Ray Anderson resigned. I think it was give or take a year ago. And There's been a lot of talk about it. I saw an article on Sports 360 AZ written by Sesmat, and his theme was it's good that Anderson's gone, but there issues remain in the athletic department. I agree. I do. I like Brad. I don't love. It is annoying that ASU is having a very good season and everyone's happy. And then it's like, oh, did you know that like you guys might not be able to pay Sam Levin? It's like ASU fans are grappling with that. ASU fan, like we know we have been through the college football emotional roller coaster, right? So I don't know. Like I'm just not worried about that right now, and there's nothing I can do to control it either. So I'm not blind. I don't think that ASU is going to be like this huge. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so fixated on that, but ultimately, like we can parse through the long term issues about ASU's athletic department, and the specter of Michael Crow, watching over the athletic department. I think those are fair topics, but I don't know. Like it's still good that Ray Anderson's gone. He had stayed too long. It was there was no it was just done. It was done. And I'm not saying Rossini I'm still not a fan of the process that got Graham Rossini hired. But if you're going to have, a mid-tier athletic department, it's good to have someone like Graham Rossini who is reaching out, who appears, I don't know exactly how everything's going on, but appears to be uncovering every stone, trying to make things better, trying to find solutions, build partnerships, grow NIL. And so I'm just glad that we are in a place where we are acting like more of a just run-of-the-mill Power 5 athletic department. There aren't scandals. There aren't weird things going on. You don't have your athletic director openly balking at the idea of NIL, which will never be crazy to me. Anyway. So I guess I just wanted to touch on that. I wish Ray Anderson, honestly, like I wish him good fortune in the rest of his life. I think that he's really been an important person in the history of the NFL, and equitable hiring practices. But it just didn't work as an athletic director. So it's more, I wanted to bring that up just more of like, hey, this is where we were last year. It was just complete chaos. Remember at the UCLA game, fans were chanting about like for him to leave, and just the rain cloud is gone. And some of it was part of the fans. A lot of it was because of the hiring of Herm Edwards by Ray Anderson. And it's all like, we can just be done with it. It is in the past. And now ASU's men's basketball program looks solid. Their football team has a very good chance to finish the season ranked. Volleyball is doing well. They just have more NIL than they used to. I mean, it may not be a ton. It may be just, it's probably just in the mid-level of the Big 12. And that doesn't make you a mover and shaker, but it at least makes you competitive. It makes you competent. And there's a lot of kids who aren't going simply for just the highest dollar amount. And if you're building a good, vibe, a good community on the football team, then that doesn't mean guys are still going to leave, but it's going to be probably less frequent. So, and with men's basketball, Hurley he's a dog, he's a fighter, and he's going to find that NIL money somewhere. So there we go. Ultimately, this department's in a better place, and there's no reason to freak out all the time about every long-term thing that could affect it, because you will drive yourself insane. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, rate and review, follow the College Huddle, and and go to the ASU versus GCU game on Thursday night. I'm going to be there. A local celebrity will be there now. It's just a good game, and I bet tickets will be cheaper tomorrow too. So, I think I saw someone on TickPick had it without fees. So I know there's BS reasons why ticket prices are the way they are, but try to find a way to get down to the Footprint Center and watch a game against two quality, decent basketball teams. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, rate and review. And as always, go Sun Devils.